Ever realize you're just the sidekick in someone else's blockbuster? That was me, clueless, chugging beer while my best friend swapped me for the VIP list. I was halfway through my second Miller Lite when I realized Jamie wasn't just late. She was late. The clock above the bar at Rusty's Tavern said 8:07 p.m., and we'd agreed on 7 sharp because, well, that's how it's always been. Beer and wings night isn't exactly rocket science. Just show up, eat some greasy food, and talk smack about the week. I shifted on the sticky bar stool, the vinyl creaking under me, and checked my phone again. Nothing. My legs started bouncing under the table, this annoying little tick I can't shake when I'm antsy. I fired off a text, "You dead or what?" Then I leaned back, staring at the screen like it might magically cough up an answer. Mike, the bartender, who's been pouring beers here since before I was legal, wiped down the counter and smirked at me over his rag. "She's probably too cool for us now, huh? That fancy boutique job's got her running with the glitter crowd." I snorted, tipping my bottle at him. "Yeah, right. She's probably just stuck picking out the perfect scarf to match her existential crisis." He chuckled, but it didn't stop that twitch in my leg. I took another swig, the beer lukewarm and flat by now, and told myself she'd walk through that door any second. All apologies and that big grin she's been flashing since we were kids. See, Jamie and me, we go way back. Middle school, to be exact. 2 greasy-haired weirdos who met when she dared me to sneak into the county fair with her. I got us caught behind the funnel cake stand and she laughed so hard she nearly peed herself while the security guy lectured us. That's us in a nutshell. Me screwing up, her turning it into a story. I've been fixing her beat-up Toyota for free since she got her license. Every blown tire, every leaky radiator. And she's the one who swore she'd drag me out to LA someday, like I'm some small-town puppy she'd rescue from a life of oil stains and dive bars. We've always clicked, you know? Like the last 2 pieces of a puzzle nobody else bothered to finish. But lately, she's been off. Not just I forgot to text back off, more like I'm dodging you and pretending it's fine off. It started a couple months ago when she landed that job at the boutique downtown, the one with the overpriced candles and shirts that look like they'd rip if you sneeze too hard. Suddenly, our beer and wings nights turned into maybe next week nights, and my texts got hit with busy or crazy day, sorry. I figured it was the job. New gig, new stress. Hell, I've been elbow deep in engine grease during a rush week at the shop, so I get it. She's climbing her ladder, I'm climbing mine. No big deal, right? My phone buzzed on the bar, and I snatched it up faster than I meant to. Jamie's name lit up the screen. "Sorry, caught up with some people from work. Rain check?" I stared at it, thumbs hovering over the keys. "Caught up with some people," I muttered, loud enough that Mike raised an eyebrow. Part of me wanted to fire back something snarky. "Yeah, whatever, Your Highness." But I didn't. I just tapped out a thumbs-up emoji and hit send, feeling like a chump the second it went through. People. Not I'm swamped with inventory or the boss is riding my ass. Just people. Like I'm not one of her people anymore. I drained the last of my beer, the bottle clinking harder than necessary when I set it down. "Another?" Mike asked, already reaching for the cooler. "Nah, I'm good," I said, sliding off the stool. "Think I've been stood up enough for one night." He grinned, shaking his head. "Her loss, man. Wings are half off till 9. I smirked back. "Tempting, but I'll pass," and shoved my hands in my jacket pockets as I headed for the door. The cold hit me like a slap when I stepped outside, the parking lot gravel crunching under my boots. I climbed into my old Ford, the one with the dented fender I keep meaning to fix, and cranked the engine. It sputtered to life, same as always, and I pulled onto the empty road, headlights slicing through the dark. "Caught up with people," I said to the windshield, my voice bouncing off the cracked dashboard. "Right, like I'm chopped liver now," I flicked on the radio, some twangy country song about losing your girl to a city boy, and I laughed, a short, bitter bark that fogged up the glass. "Perfect. Guess I didn't get the memo that I'm the backup plan these days." The streetlights blurred past and I drummed my fingers on the wheel, trying to shake the dumb little ache in my chest. It's not like we're dating or anything. Jamie's my best friend, not my girlfriend. But still, you don't just bail on a decade of history for some people without a heads up. When I got home, I kicked the door shut behind me and tossed my keys on the counter, the clatter louder than it needed to be in the quiet. My place isn't much. couch with a spring that pokes you if you sit wrong, a fridge that hums like it's plotting something. But it's mine. I grabbed a water from the sink, mostly to have something to do, and my eyes landed on this old photo stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a wrench. Me and Jamie at prom. Her in this sparkly blue dress she swore made her look like a disco ball, me in a rented tux that didn't quite fit. We're grinning like idiots, arms slung around each other, probably half drunk on cheap punch. I stood there, glass halfway to my mouth, and felt my smirk fade. "She'll call tomorrow," I said to the empty room, nodding at the photo like it could nod back. "She always does." I flicked off the light and headed to bed, ignoring the part of me that wasn't so sure anymore. Jamie's flaky, sure, but she's not gone. Not yet. I flopped onto the mattress, boots still on, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles overhead. The hum drowned out the quiet, and I let it pull me under, telling myself it'd all blow over by morning. That's what best friends do. They flake, they fight, they figure it out, right? It'd been a week since Jamie bailed on me at Rusty's, and I'd mostly shoved it to the back of my mind. Work's been nuts, and you don't dwell on a rain check when you're wrist deep in a busted transmission. But then Saturday rolled around, and I was starving after a long shift, so I swung by the diner on Main Street for a burger and some fries. The place was buzzing, waitresses hollering orders, the jukebox spitting out some old Springsteen tune, and I was just settling into a booth when I saw her. Jamie. She was across the room, tucked into a corner table with a pack of people I'd never laid eyes on before. They were loud, shiny, like they'd walked straight out of a TikTok ad. Guys in skinny jeans that looked painful, girls clutching iced coffees, even though it was barely 50 degrees out. Not a flannel or a ball cap in sight, and there was Jamie, right in the middle, laughing so hard her head tipped back, tossing her hair like she was auditioning for the lead in some cheesy rom-com. I sat there, still in my grease-stained Carhartt from the shop, ketchup packet half open in my hand, feeling like I'd crashed a party I didn't even know was happening. I waved, just a quick flick of my fingers, figuring she'd spot me and come say hi. She caught my eye for half a second, gave this tiny nod, like you'd give a stranger asking for directions, then turned back to her crew, her laugh cutting through the diner noise. One guy stood out, this tall dude with hair so gelled it could have stopped a bullet. He leaned in close, smirking, and called her Jame, loud enough for me to hear. "Jame," I thought, squeezing the ketchup packet a little too hard so it squirted onto my sleeve. "Buddy?" I've known her since she bawled her eyes out over a B in algebra. "Who the hell are you?" My jaw tightened, but I wiped the ketchup off with a napkin and told myself to chill. She's allowed to have other friends. I'm not her keeper. Then she got up and strolled over, all fake casual, like she'd just noticed me sitting there. "Oh, hey. Didn't see you," she said, hands stuffed in the pockets of this sleek leather jacket I'd never seen before. "These are my work friends. Super chill. You'd love them." Her voice had this bouncy lilt, like she was selling me on a timeshare. I grinned, leaning back in the booth. "Yeah, they look like they'd love a night of PBR and darts. Real salt of the earth types." She blinked, then laughed. But it didn't land right. Too quick, too airy, like she hadn't even caught the jab. "No, seriously," she went on. "They're so fun. We've been hanging out a ton lately." I nodded, tearing open another ketchup packet just to have something to do with my hands. "Cool," I said, keeping my tone light. "Guess I'll have to fight for a slot on your busy social calendar now." She shifted her weight, glancing back at the table, where Geldhair was watching us like a hawk. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic," she said, rolling her eyes. "I've just been vibing with them more, you know? They get where I'm at right now." I raised an eyebrow, dipping a fry in the ketchup puddle on my plate. "What? I'm too small town for your big city dreams these days?" I was half teasing, expecting her to slug my arm and call me an idiot like she used to, but she just shrugged, this little twitch at the corner of her mouth. "Maybe," she said, and laughed again, hollow, like an echo bouncing off nothing. My fries stopped halfway to my mouth, but I forced a chuckle. "Fair enough, Jane," I said, leaning on that stupid nickname just to see if it'd bug her. It didn't. She just smiled and drifted back to her crew, her boots clicking on the linoleum like she was walking off a stage. I ate my burger, but it tasted like cardboard after that. The diner noise faded into a hum, and I kept sneaking looks at her table. She was all animated over there, hands waving, head thrown back again, like she'd never been happier. Then I caught it. Her voice cutting through the chatter as she leaned into gelled hair. "Alex is great, just, stuck here." My stomach twisted. A slow, sour churn that had nothing to do with the greasy food. Stuck here. Like I'm some sad sack she's outgrown, a hometown anchor dragging her down. I shoved my plate away, the fries half-eaten, and slumped back in the booth. The waitress swung by. "You good, hun?" And I nodded, muttering, "Yeah, just full," but I wasn't. I felt empty, like someone had scooped out a chunk of me and left it on the table with the ketchup stains. I paid up and headed out, the bell above the door jangling as I stepped into the chilly night. My truck was parked across the street, and I climbed in, cranking the heat even though it'd take 5 minutes to kick in. I sat there for a second, hands on the wheel, staring at the diner's neon sign flickering in the dark. "Stuck here," I said to the empty cab, my breath fogging up the windshield. "Sure, James. Guess I'm just the hometown loser holding you back." I popped open the glove box, fished out a warm beer I'd stashed there from God knows when, and cracked it open. The first sip was bitter, but it steadied me. I wasn't mad. Not yet. Just rattled, like when you miss a step going downstairs and catch yourself at the last second. She's slipping, I thought, drumming my fingers on the can. But she's not gone, not all the way. We've got too much history for that. I drove home slow, the radio off, just the hum of the engine filling the silence. When I got inside, I kicked off my boots and flopped onto the couch, the spring jabbing me in the back like always. I scrolled through my phone, half expecting a text, maybe a "sorry I was weird" or a dumb meme to smooth it over. Nothing, just that thumbs up still sitting there from last week, mocking me. I tossed the phone on the coffee table and grabbed the beer again, taking a long pull. "To epic vibes," I said, raising the can to the ceiling fan spinning lazy loops above me. "Hope they're worth it, James." I leaned my head back, eyes tracing the cracks in the plaster, and let the quiet settle in. "She's just in a phase," I told myself. "She'll snap out of it, she has to." I'd been chewing on that diner scene for a couple weeks, trying not to let it fester, but it stuck to me like grease on a wrench. Jamie hadn't texted since, I was off, or even a dumb emoji to smooth things over, so I figured I'd take the high road and give her a chance to make it right. My birthday was coming up, nothing big, just another trip around the sun, and I thought, why not keep it simple? Pizza, a bonfire out back, just me and her like old times. I texted her a week ahead, "Hey, birthday's Friday, pizza and fire at my place, 7-ish. You in?" She shot back quick, "Hell yeah, wouldn't miss it," and I grinned at my phone, feeling that knot in my chest loosen a bit. "See? She's still in there," I thought, tossing a log on the pile I'd been stacking behind the house. The Jame who'd ditch her shiny crew for a night of pepperoni and bad jokes. She's not gone yet. Friday rolled around and I spent the afternoon hauling firewood from the shed, my breath puffing in the crisp October air. I grabbed a couple pizzas from Tony's, extra cheese the way she likes it, and even swung by the gas station for a 6-pack of Coors, figuring we'd crack a few by the flames. By 6:45, the fire was snapping, spitting sparks into the darkening sky, and I dragged out a couple folding chairs, the metal cold under my fingers. I checked my phone, nothing yet, but she's always been a last-minute scrambler. I plopped into a chair, the heat from the fire licking at my shins, and waited, watching the smoke curl up past the bare trees. 7 came and went. Then, 7:15. I texted her, "Pizza's getting cold. You lost or what?" No dots, no reply. My thumb hovered over the call button, but I didn't press it. Didn't want to look like some naggy jerk. At 7:30, my phone buzzed and I snatched it up, half expecting her to say she was pulling into the drive. Instead, it was just 4 lines that hit like a sucker punch. "Sorry, got invited to this rooftop thing with the crew. Next time, have fun though." I stared at the screen, the fire popping behind me, and let out a laugh. Short, sharp, like I'd just heard the world's dumbest joke. "Rooftop thing," I said to the empty yard, my voice bouncing off the shed. "We don't even have rooftops worth a damn here." I dropped the phone onto the chair arm, watching the flames chew through a log, and felt my jaw tighten. The pizza boxes sat unopened on the picnic table, grease soaking through the cardboard, and the 6-pack sweated in the grass. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and muttered, "Next time. Sure, Jamie." I don't know why I did it, maybe I'm a masochist, but I opened Instagram and there she was, tagged in a slew of pics from some downtown loft I didn't even know existed. Jamie, grinning wide, sipping a cocktail with a stupid little umbrella in it. Gelled hair's arms slung around her shoulders. Her crew was all there, laughing under string lights, captions screaming, "Living my best life," and "Squad goals!" I scrolled, my thumb moving slow, waiting for some hint of "Me I miss you, Alex," or even a sad face emoji. Nothing, not a footnote. I tossed the phone onto the table, the clatter swallowed by the fire's crackle, and grabbed a beer, cracking it open with a hiss. 10 years, I said, tipping the can at the flames. And I don't rate a slice of pepperoni. Awesome. The next morning I was still stewing, flipping a wrench between my fingers at the shop when Tara swung by. She's been our mutual buddy since high school, the one who always knows the dirt before anyone else. She leaned against the workbench, sipping a coffee, and gave me this look, half pity, half gossip. "You okay after last night?" she asked, eyeing the dark circles I hadn't bothered to hide. I shrugged, tightening a bolt on a carburetor. "Yeah, just peachy." "Jamie bailed for a rooftop party, no biggie." Tara winced, setting her cup down. "Yeah, I heard. Look, I wasn't gonna say anything, but she's been talking smack about you to those idiots." I stopped twisting the wrench, my hand freezing mid-turn. "Smack like what?" She sighed, kicking at a stray bolt on the floor. "Says you're too basic for her new glow-up, like you're holding her back or something." I laughed. Couldn't help it. A loud, barking sound that made Tara jump. "Basic," I said, slamming the wrench down hard enough to dent the bench. "I rebuilt her alternator last month. Took me 3 hours in the rain because she couldn't afford the shop rate, but sure." "I'm the boring one." My voice was loud, bouncing off the garage walls, and I caught myself, running a hand through my hair. Tara nodded, slow, like she was waiting for me to blow up more. "She's different now, Alex," she said, quieter, "wrapped up in that crew. I don't think she's coming back to the old Jamie anytime soon." I stared at the carburetor, grease smudged on my knuckles, and felt something shift. Anger, flaring hot, then cooling fast into this sharp, clear ache. "She's gone, man," I said, mostly to myself. "The Jamie I knew isn't coming back." I didn't say much after that. Tara hung around for a bit, chatting about her kid's soccer game, but I was only half listening, nodding when I had to. When she left, I grabbed my keys and headed home, the afternoon sun slanting low through the trees. Inside, I rummaged through the closet, digging past old jackets and a pair of boots I never wear until I found it, Jamie's hoodie, this ratty gray thing she'd left here years ago after a bonfire. It still smelled faintly of smoke and that cheap vanilla spray she used to drown herself in. I held it up, staring at the frayed cuffs, then walked it straight to the donation box by the door. "Let's see how long this best life lasts," I said, dropping it in with a soft thud. The lid clanged shut and I stood there, hands in my pockets, feeling lighter. Like I'd finally cut a cord I didn't know was strangling me. I grabbed another beer from the fridge and flopped onto the couch, the spring jabbing my back like always. The room was quiet, just the hum of the fridge, and for the first time in weeks I didn't check my phone. She's gone, I thought again, and this time, it didn't sting as bad. The weeks after that birthday fiasco dragged on like a bad hangover, slow, heavy, and leaving me with a sour taste I couldn't shake. I didn't hear a peep from Jamie, not even a happy belated or one of those lame apology emojis she used to spam me with. Radio silence. I told myself I was fine with it, tossed her hoodie, cut the cord, all that jazz, but there was still this tight little knot in my chest I couldn't quite ignore. So I did what I always do when life gets messy. I buried myself in work. The shop was slammed anyway, carburetors to rebuild, oil changes stacking up, and it was easy to lose myself in the hum of engines and the clank of tools. My crew picked up on my mood, though. During a slow afternoon, I was elbow deep in a Chevy's guts when Pete, this big bear of a guy who's been wrenching with me for years, grinned over his coffee mug. "Heard you're too basic for glittery rooftop parties now, huh?" I smirked, wiping grease off my hands with a rag. "It turns out I'm not cut out for tiny umbrellas and hair gel. More beer for us, right?" He barked a laugh, slapping the workbench, and Mike, our tire guy, chimed in damn straight. Let her sip martinis with the posers. They kept it going, ribbing me about my small-town charm, and I played along, chuckling even though that knot in my chest didn't budge. Nights were trickier. I'd finish up late, the shop quiet except for the buzz of the overhead lights, and drive home through town, windows down, the cold air slapping me awake. One night, maybe 3 weeks after the bonfire flop, I took the long way past the boutique. Just habit, not stalking or anything creepy. The lights were still on, glowing through the big glass windows, and there she was, Jamie. Inside, leaning over the counter, laughing with gelled hair like nothing had ever gone sideways. He said something, she tossed her head back, and for a second I could hear that laugh, like it was still mine to hear. My hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles going white, and I hit the gas a little harder than I meant to, the truck lurching forward. I didn't stop. Didn't even slow down, just kept driving, the boutique shrinking in my rear view until it was just a smear of light. "Good for you, Jame," I muttered, turning up the radio to drown out the quiet. "Hope he's worth it." I was starting to get used to the emptiness, filling it with oil stains and bad country songs, when Tara texted me out of the blue. It was a Thursday late, and I was sprawled on the couch, half watching some reruns of Cops with a beer balanced on my stomach. My phone buzzed, and I groaned, fishing it out from under a cushion. Her message popped up, "Heads up." Heads up, Jamie's crew ditched her. Gelled hair guy ghosted, and the girls turned on her over some petty drama. I sat up, the beer sloshing a little, and read it again, a slow smirk tugging at my mouth. "Karma's got a hell of a right hook," I said to the TV, where some guy was yelling about his rights in handcuffs. I pictured it, Jamie stranded, her shiny squad scattering like roaches when the lights flip on. Part of me wanted to text Tara back, dig for details, but before I could, my phone buzzed again. This time it was her. "Jamie. Hey, can we talk? I miss you." I stared at it, the screen glowing in the dim room, and let out this half laugh, half snort that sounded more pissed than I expected. "Miss me?" I said, loud enough that my voice bounced off the walls. "She's got some nerve." I didn't reply, not right away. I set the phone down, grabbed the beer, and pushed out onto the porch, the screen door creaking behind me. The night was still, just crickets and the faint hum of a neighbor's TV, and I dropped into the old rocking chair out there, the wood groaning under my weight. I took a long pull from the can, the cold fizz hitting my throat, and stared out at the dark yard, replaying her words in my head. "I miss you." Bullshit. She didn't miss me when she was sipping martinis with gelled hair, giggling under those string lights while I sat alone by a fire meant for two. She didn't miss me when she told her crew I was too basic, like I'm some relic she'd outgrown. I rocked the chair back, the runners squeaking, and felt that knot in my chest twist, hurt, sharp and hot like a spark jumping from the bonfire. "She misses the safety net," I said to the crickets, my voice low. "Not me." I pulled out my phone again, thumb hovering over her text. Part of me wanted to fire back something mean. "Miss you too when you bailed on my birthday, Jame." But I stopped myself, taking another sip instead. I scrolled up through our old messages, back before the boutique, before the crew. Dumb memes, her begging me to fix her car, me telling her to stop driving like a maniac. That Jamie felt like a ghost now, some echo I couldn't grab onto. I locked the screen, tossing the phone onto the porch railing with a clatter, and leaned my head back, the chair rocking slow. Tara's voice floated up from that morning. "She's different now, Alex." Yeah, she was. And I'd been kidding myself, thinking she'd snap out of it, come running back with a pizza box and a grin. The hurt faded, cooling into something harder, clearer. "I'm not her fallback guy," I said, the words settling in my gut like concrete. "Not anymore." I stayed out there a while, finishing the beer, the empty can dangling from my fingers. Pete's laugh from earlier rang in my ears. "More beer for us?" And I smirked, a real one this time. I had my crew, my shop, my life. Jamie could chase her glittery glow-up all she wanted, but I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to crash and call me to pick up the pieces. I stood up, the chair creaking one last time, and headed inside, leaving the phone on the railing. Tomorrow I'd deal with her text. Or maybe I wouldn't. Either way, I was done bending over backwards for someone who'd already walked away. I flicked off the TV, the room going dark, and crashed onto the couch, the spring jabbing me like an old friend. For the first time in weeks, I slept sound. No dreams of bonfires or rooftops. Just quiet. I left Jamie's text hanging out there on the porch railing all night, unanswered. like some stray sock I'd deal with later. Morning came, crisp and gray, and I dragged myself to the shop, figuring I'd let the hum of engines drown out the noise in my head. It worked, mostly. Pete and Mike kept the day rolling with their usual chatter, cracking jokes about a customer who'd tried to fix his own muffler with duct tape. "Guy's a genius," Pete said, tossing me a spark plug. "Should have called him instead of you for Jamie's car," I snorted, catching it midair. "Yeah, he'd have patched her glow up right up." They laughed and I grinned, the rhythm of the shop pulling me along like always. But that text still gnawed at me, a little splinter I couldn't pluck out, and I caught myself glancing at my phone more than I'd admit, half expecting her to double down with another "I miss you." It was late afternoon, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows across the garage floor, when I heard the gravel crunch outside. I was under a Ford, tightening a bolt, when Pete's voice cut through the clank of tools. "Yo, Alex, you got a visitor." I slid out, wiping sweat off my forehead with my sleeve, and there she was. Jamie, standing in the bay door, looking like she'd rolled out of bed and straight into a guilt trip. Her eyes were red, puffy, like she'd been crying half the day, and her voice came out shaky when she spoke. "Hey," she said, hands twisting the hem of her jacket. "Can we talk?" I stood up, slow, brushing grease off my palms with a rag, and leaned against the toolbox, crossing my arms. "Sure," I said, keeping it flat, giving her nothing to grab onto. She stepped closer, the shop's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and Pete and Mike traded a look before disappearing out back, muttering something about a smoke break. Her eyes were wet, pleading, and she stopped, waiting for me to say something. I tossed the rag onto the toolbox, the thud loud in the quiet, and gave her a long look. "Took you long enough, huh?" I said, deadpan, letting it hang there. She flinched, like I'd flicked her with a wrench, but nodded quick. "Yeah, I know. I'm an idiot." I didn't yell, didn't feel the need to. I just straightened up, hands in my pockets, and laid it out, calm as I could. "You dropped me like I was nothing, Jane. I was there for every flat tire, every bad day. Hell, I stood in the rain fixing your alternator so you wouldn't miss work. And you traded that for some posers who bailed the second the shine wore off? You don't get to waltz back in here crying, 'I miss you,' like I've been sitting around waiting to be your plan B." Her mouth opened, then closed, tears spilling down her cheeks, but I kept going, my voice steady. "I'm done being the guy you fall back on when your glittery life falls apart. You made your call, live with it." She sniffled, wiping her face with her sleeve, and whispered, "I'm so sorry, Alex." I shrugged, picking up a socket wrench from the bench. "You'll be fine, Jamie. You always land on your feet." Then I turned back to the engine, sliding under it like she wasn't even there, the bolts clicking as I twisted them tight. She stood there a minute. I could hear her breathing, shaky and uneven. Then her boots shuffled away, the gravel crunching again as she left. The shop went quiet, just the hum of the heater kicking on, and Pete poked his head back in, whistling low. "Damn, man, you're colder than this concrete," he said, grinning. I slid out, smirking up at him. "Just keeping it real, Pete." He laughed, clapping me on the shoulder, and we got back to work, the day rolling on like nothing had happened. That night I hit up Tara, texted her, "Beer at Rusty's, my treat." She was there in 20, sliding into the booth across from me with a grin. "Heard you gave Jamie the boot," she said, clinking her bottle against mine. I nodded, taking a swig. "Yeah, figured it was time. To real friends, and not being anyone's doormat." She laughed, loud and bright, and we drank, swapping stories about our kid's latest tantrum and Pete's duct tape guy, the knot in my chest finally gone. Later, after Tara headed home, I locked up the shop alone, the radio blaring some old Zeppelin tune through the static. I grabbed a cold one from the mini fridge in the corner, popping it open with a hiss, and settled onto a stool, tinkering with a carburetor I'd been meaning to finish. The tools clinked in my hands, steady and sure, and I caught myself humming along, the garage warm against the night outside. Life's too short for fake crap, I thought, tightening a screw, the metal cool under my fingers. Jamie could chase her rooftops, cry her tears. I didn't care anymore. I had my people, my tools, and a cold one waiting. "That's enough." I leaned back, the stool creaking, and took a long pull from the beer, the shop lights buzzing soft overhead. For the first time in months, I felt like me again. Not Plan B, not basic, just Alex. And damn if that didn't feel good.